Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. It is a very nice afternoon, and we're joined today by Kruti Patel from the all-women rideshare service Shebah. You should be able to see Kruti on your screen. And today we're going to talk everything tech, and more importantly, getting started with a career in tech. Something that all three panelists are passionate about, and I'm sure everyone joining today has a real interest in it. I am Jared Holland and your co-host today, and Dominic is also on screen, who is my business partner and co-host. We both started Outcome.Life in 2015 to help international students with career-related employment. We do that through lots of different ways, to events, webinars like this, facilitating high-quality internships, running industry-based projects and events. And we even do a startup pre-accelerator for international students for anyone that wants to start a business. So if you can't get a job, create a job. And that's what that pre-accelerator is designed to do. Some housekeeping. If you do, we would love for you to put in the chat what type of IT you may like to pursue a career in. And it could be a variety. You could be interested in being a tester. You could be interested in being back-end and front-end. You could be interested in DevOps. It doesn't matter. Put them all in, because we will. It helps us refer to where we take the discussion to today based on the type of tech that you may want to get into. Kruti is across everything, so we can go in any direction today. Today's webinar is brought to you by Study New South Wales. We're very grateful for Study New South Wales support and their ongoing support for international students. Study New South Wales was put together by the New South Wales government in 2014. To really support international students and ensure they have a quality experience while studying in New South Wales. One of the four pillars that Study New South Wales really looks towards is delivering strategies and programs to improve the experiences of international students in New South Wales. And they've been working tirelessly, particularly during COVID-19, to make sure international students feel supported. It's not easy. There's a lot of people to manage and a lot of different moving parts, and they've been doing a brilliant job working day and night. I'm sure everyone has experienced some sort of change in the last 4 months. I don't think there'd be a person on earth that hasn't had some sort of difference, where it's a personal life or work life. But the thing is, a lot of these changes are here to stay, particularly in tech. There's going to be some real shifts in where people work from, the type of work they do and how they do their work. And a lot of it will be driven by tech and the opportunities that come from that. And we will explore that today. Other things we're going to talk about is the types of careers and roles available to IT students. So we do meet a lot of IT students that maybe have done a Masters of Information Technology or Information Systems, but they don't really know where to go to next with their career. So we want to explore that a bit further. The technical skills that you need to know. So what are the current technical trends, popular coding languages or frameworks that you should be familiarizing yourself with? And the interpersonal and critical skills, I think, and Kruti will talk to this, we'll ask her about it. I think in IT, it's never been more important to actually have the soft and critical skills. The days of sitting in a basement and coding, I think, are gone. People don't want tech people like that are just completely isolated, put their headphones on. You need to be able to interact and communicate with people. Also going to talk about how to land your first job as a software developer or a tester or DevOps engineer, and why it's important to have a strong portfolio. And most importantly, we're going to talk about self-learning and how important self-learning is to pursue a career in technology. It is more important than your degree, is the self-learning that you are doing. A quick bio on Kruti. So it is a long bio. I had to cut it short, Kruti, because there's a lot to say about you. But Kruti loves new innovation, creative and emerging technologies, and is the current CTO of Shebah, an all-women ride-sharing platform. Kruti is well entrenched in the Australian tech scene, who is outspoken, and I hope we'll get some of that outspokenness and just raw honesty today. But backs it up by being technically strong. Now, this is very important for a CTO or anyone in tech, because it means other tech people can't bullshit you, because Kruti can call on the bullshit factor. And that is a great skill to have, to be a really personal person, but actually understand all the tech talk. It's led Kruti to being on stage at PauseFest, Future Assembly, Google Developers Meetups, and presenting at General Assembly. So giving back a lot. And she's passionate about diversity and sits on multiple diversity panels, including with Academy XI and General Assemblies, I look like a developer. And Kruti feels that up-and-coming generation of young coders is imperative to the economy. And obviously that is crucial to our economy going forward. It is a hard issue to tackle and to solve, particularly getting more women in tech, which we'll probably talk a bit about today as well. It did promote or prompt Kruti to start an organisation called Young Coders, which is a not-for-profit, and it's an education initiative run by a collection of developers, designers, managers, and tech individuals. And Young Coders provides access to technology to those who can't easily get access to tech. So a really important cause that Kruti is well and truly behind. Some more interesting things on Kruti. Now, I would never have picked this in the top 20 things, but Kruti is a weightlifter and loves to work out. So I have no doubt you can probably lift about double what I can lift. And Kruti is also a games nerd. So favorite games being Counter-Strike, I have no idea what that is, and Warface, I also have no idea what that is, but Kruti is a gamer by the sounds of it, and also a fashion blogger. So a weightlifter and a fashion blogger. So quite a variety of stuff. It's amazing how many senior executives you meet that have really strong passions outside of the work that they do. And you can see a wide range of passion that Kruti does have. So that's enough from me. We want to hand over to Kruti now. So thank you so much, Kruti, for being with us today. I know you're extremely busy, so giving up time, we really do appreciate it. But first of all, how are you? How's COVID been going for you? How are you finding getting through it? How are things with you at the minute?
Hi, hi everyone. So I'm Kruti, as Gerald mentioned. I am from Shebah and I'm a CTO at Shebah Redshirt. So yeah, that's a bit of my background. I am doing pretty good actually with COVID. I don't know. I feel privileged, to be honest. I won't lie, that I have a job in hand. I have a house to stay in, a healthy life right now, no sickness or anything. I think I can't complain much, right? I think I'm pretty good. I'm going good. Yeah.
Great to hear. You're quite a young CTO in a pretty prominent business like Shebah. It is a pretty well-known business. So talk us through your career. How have you got to being in the position you are now? What's your journey been, even going back to high school days? I'm pretty sure you had a pretty high interest in tech from a very early age, but would love to hear about your journey from school days to now.
Yeah, so I studied back home in India. So when I was in, I would say about 16-year-old, my dad got laptop and I started playing games. As you said before, I'm a games nerd. I am a games nerd. So I started playing games on computer, and I was very fascinated by how on key presses things happen in games, basically. So that made me go into, that made me curious that I want to learn how it happens. I want to program, I want to do things. And that's how I got into more like hardcore programming from very early stage of my life. And then I was like, okay, if I want to be a programmer, what are the career options do I have? And one of them was computer engineering. And that's how I became computer engineer. And then I had to struggle for that. I won't lie. Engineering was something my dad didn't wanted me to do. He wanted me to do biology, and he wanted me to become a biology professor because he's a doctor. So I had to fight against it, that no, I want to be in tech and I want to make games and stuff like that. So that's how I got into tech world. I aimed to become a games developer, but of course I did not. And I became apps developer after my graduation. And that was one of the best things I did for my career, because I started working on Android programming platform since the Android 1.1 OS was launched. So I'm one of those unique developers who has so much experience of working on Android from the day it was launched, sort of. So that was how I got into tech and how I became a unique developer in that sense. Then I did 3 or 4 years of work in India. After that I moved to Australia. And when I moved to Australia, I had to start all over again because here we have local experience, thing called local experience, and I had to be again junior developer. But because I have so much experience in Android already, it was not hard for me to grow in the industry. And I moved to Australia in like 2011, so 9 years from junior developer to CTO. It has been a journey. It has been a really good journey. I had to work hard, really hard. I had to put myself out there. I had to focus on my skills as well. Yes, India versus working in Australia is different. So I had to upskill myself a lot as well. But along with that, I had amazing mentors who helped me, and I grew in the industry, and yeah, became CTO eventually at quite young age. It's not too young, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. I find it very impressive, Kruti. You mentioned then that when you moved to Australia, businesses wanted you to have local experience, and we see that every single day. And it sounded like you took a role that was probably beneath you, probably already beyond where the role you took. But it sounds like, and I want you to talk me through this, that you sort of took the view, well, I'm just going to take whatever role I can get. I don't care if it's below me, but when I'm in there, I'm going to prove to them how good I am, and I'll climb up the ladder 3 times as fast, even though I'm starting lower. I'd like to hear thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think first of all, when you move to a different country and you don't have job, first thing you want to think about is you want something, right? Either you have option of earning a lot of money in going overnight jobs at factories, or you compromise on earning money and start as intern, or not intern. Intern might not, I don't know if intern would make you survive in this country, but like anything, some lower job like I did, junior engineer role straight away, because at least it was in my field and it helped me grow. So these are, I know I have lots of friends who struggle with that generally, that what should they do, more money or and I chose to go for less money, lower profile job over what I deserved at that point of time. But I'm a firm believer that if you are good, no one can stop your growth. So that's what exactly I did. I went in within a year. They saw my capabilities, promoted me as a senior developer. And I was as a senior developer for about 3 years or 4 years before I moved to lead. And then engineering manager was a good struggle for me. Like I need a good, one of the things I think I would like to advise is know what you want. That's what I knew. I knew where I wanted to be. So I focused on how I get there. So I wanted to be a CTO. So I focused on my soft skills as well as my technical skills, because you have to be technically strong to be a CTO. So I focused on both of these when I became senior engineer. So senior engineer to becoming engineering manager, I focused on public speaking, being more across around technologies, because until that I was very focused on Android, and also learned people management and stuff so that I can grow in that. And then I had to prove myself for 3 months before I get the engineering manager position. So I was acting as engineering manager, but I did not have official role. And I proved myself, and then I got it. So you have to take some risks. As you can see, I did take some risk as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and I actually think it's less risky to take a role that's maybe below you than to keep looking for the perfect role, because once you're in the system, and it sounds to me like you played the long game. You knew that you'd get to where you wanted to get to, whether it takes 4 years, 8 years, or 12 years. You backed yourself, and you knew in the long term that you'd get there. But putting yourself in a position where you could prove to people is the most important. You can't prove to people from home. You can do it in the workforce. And there's another gentleman we helped a couple of years ago that did a similar thing. He was in hospitality for 7 years, and then went and did an internship actually at a tech startup in Melbourne. And it was an unpaid internship for 12 weeks, but he converted that into a job and then got promoted twice in the next 9 months. He was earning far beyond what he was working in hospitality very quickly, but he had to go and invest in himself first. And I think just playing the long game becomes important.
Yeah, and as you're talking about internship, yes, I have hired 2 employees of mine in Shebah who were interns for 3 months, unpaid interns. And then
Fantastic.
I took them on board full time because they wanted to start career. One of the developers, she knew a bit of Python. She wanted to be data analyst, and all she wanted to do was just get in there and learn as much as she can. And she proved that she was very curious to learn. She was amazing. And then she was so good that I was looking for the data analyst. Why would I not give opportunity to a newbie instead of looking for someone outside where I have already an intern working with me? So
Kruti, just a quick question. When that intern started with you or just before, were you really thinking about hiring that person at the end of the internship, or did she make herself so indispensable that you just created a position for her?
so in her case, it was we created a position for her.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we did not really need data analyst because our backend developers can also look into or I can also look into the database and give all the necessary information for business. But we used to get them a lot as well. And when she jumped on board and she started taking care of all these reports that we was required to make, it just made our lives easier. And of course, that made us realize that, yeah, why not hire her?
So this is a big lesson for many international students doing an internship. Do not believe the company if they say that there's no job at the end of the internship. I know many companies where the attitude of the intern has been so positive and they made themselves so indispensable that they ended up creating a position for them. So that's a wonderful example. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I, to be honest, if you intend to get hired when you are like, I think I interviewed my interns always before they join. So if you are in an interview and you have that question, you can ask that as well. I don't think there is a problem. Like I was asked that question from the employee I have, and I told her honestly that if I have an opportunity to hire you, I will hire you. If you are good, in 3 months you prove to be good and we need that skill set,
Yep.
I will hire you. But
Wonderful.
I cannot promise you right now. And that level of honesty is required, especially from interns as well. That, because if they know that, yes, there is chances, they also get very proactive. So it's like both ways.
And it is very related to the topic that we're talking about, but I was just writing an article this morning actually that I'm going to blog. But if an intern, if a student or intern approaches the internship not like an internship but as a job, their chance of getting hired at the end is 10 times higher. So that's terrific. All right, good stuff.
Kruti, I want to just quickly come back to maybe your early days for a little bit, and then I see there's lots of people posting questions already about what advice we can give them to help to get work. But you mentioned your dad, and that your dad wanted you to do biology and you wanted to do tech. And it's interesting now because I think most kids that want to do tech now, their parents are over the moon because all the jobs of the future are all considered to be in tech. But going back to that time, what do you wish was in place in the school system that maybe could have helped you pursue a career in tech, or better still, helped your parents understand that a career in tech was a really good pathway? And this could be systemic things. It could be, tech entrepreneurs coming into the classroom. Like, what's your view on what can be done in the, really I'm getting to what can be done in the school system now that, you learn from your experience, it could help more people get into tech?
Yeah, so to be honest, because I studied back home in India, it might be bit of misalignment in terms of what we have over here versus there, but I know what we have over here as well. So when I was in 5th standard, which is, I don't know what age, 5th standard in India, or grade 5 over here, I guess, I studied a programming language called Fortran or FoxPro, something like that, something like that. And I was programming since then, like very early. Our schools had coding and everything. So I think that is one of the reasons probably that we have so many techies come out from India. But we don't have that level of support often over here in Australia. Not many schools have them as well. And it's a drawback because our mindset starts developing in terms of the logic and algorithms from a very early stage, and that helps us learn programming in any languages very easily. Whereas if you start very late, you have a little bit of it's not impossible. Of course, you can play around. If your base is solid, you can play around with multiple languages, but having that earlier exposure of algorithms and logic and stuff helps you a lot to migrate into multiple programming languages. And that's one of the biggest positives I think I had, because I had that programming experience earlier. In terms of mindset of parents, I think it does come down to, again, it sounds like that, but it does come down to proving that the technology is the future, and why also, like, most of the times parents are worried about their future in terms of how much money they are gonna earn to survive, right? So if you can explain your parents about what money you can earn or what potential tech has, then it might be also positive. As a very young kid, you might not have to do that, but you can just tell them that you are curious about programming and how internet works and how cloud works, and keep asking them questions and make them curious, and then they will be like, yeah, okay, go for it, sort of.
So Kruti, I know a couple of students whose parents wanted them to live their life because they were doctors. They wanted their students to be their children to be doctors. But I think one of the best things that students can do is sit in front of their parents and type into Google jobs of the future. And I would say that 90 of the top 100 has got something to do with IT.
Oh, definitely.
And so the world is changing. And so IT, and this is why, and we're getting so many people asking lots of questions, IT is the future. I mean, my parents wanted me to work in their butcher shop. So you can imagine, I mean, butcher shops is something that you see everywhere, don't you? So if I had followed their advice, I would have been cutting up butts of beef. But anyway.
And also, it's a very valid point, right? Like, say, for example, now, if I was in school and I wanted to be in tech and my dad would have asked me, I would be like, Dad, how many operation or ICU devices you have that are run with technology? And if I'm building them, I'm still indirectly helping them. So why you need to go into that? Like, I'll have counter arguments now. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, can we launch into questions now, Jared?
Yes, we can, Dom.
Cool.
Go. Let's
All right.
the crowd. I know it's your favourite part.
This is my favourite bit, so we're going to try and get through as many as we can. So, Kruti, in your opinion, let's just start with, say, front-end web development, web application development. What are the key technologies that people should be self-learning in order to get a head start in front-end web?
Cool. So I think now, because of COVID, there is a slight pivot that has happened in terms of front-end development as well. So until now, everyone was like front-end. They need a lot of front-end developers and stuff. But now they are looking for people who has like overall knowledge a lot. So like front-end being your special skill set, you can also focus on, firstly, AWS, hosting, Heroku, Kubernetes, all this, and also learn a bit more about build a niche into either Vue or React. These are the two biggest frameworks people are using. Also learn about Node. Node is something which is quite heavily used, sometimes in front end, but also quite heavily in back end. And
so these are all JavaScript languages that you're mentioning. So React, Vue, everything but React Native. Would that be fair to say? Because I don't like React Native.
Yeah, so once you know React, it is easier to do React Native, or vice versa. And the good part about that is because React Native is not the greatest technology for mobiles, but at the same time, when you need, like, say, for example, there is an event happening and you want to build an app to just give information about that event, React Native is perfect for it. You don't need too many fancy both Android and iOS apps. So in those cases, React Native are quite useful, and most of the times agencies use React Native heavily compared to product companies. Product companies have bigger products, so they focus on individual apps. So I think, yeah, that's why I think React has got little bit more attention over Vue.
So
what about Flutter?
You just reeled off, you mentioned quite a lot of software and technologies then. The universities, how are they supposed to possibly keep up with all the changes in software and technology and what the flavor of the month is? Because I know it changes really fast. I'd never heard of Flutter that I know Dom just mentioned before 6 months ago, and now we're building apps in our tech stack with Flutter. So given we can't expect the universities to stay on top of this because industry changes fast, which means students can't expect their lecturers to be teaching them about the latest technologies necessarily. So how important is self-learning if you want to have a career in tech?
So again, I go back to doctor's example, but if you know any doctors, they study entire life, they keep reading. I think tech is same. You have to keep upgrading yourself. And nowadays it has become like every 6 months, there is a new technology coming out, or new programming language, or new style of coding is coming out, where everyone is jumping onto that and stuff like that. So it is so important to, I'm not saying to be pro at all of the new frameworks that come out, but be across them. That's the most important part. In terms of universities, I'm a firm believer that universities need to teach students the core of programming, like the fundamentals of programming. And then once your fundamental is strong, you will be able to migrate to programming languages very easily. Like I have Java and .NET background, and for me, learning Node was not hard at all. So I think it's all about make your fundamentals strong. If your college is giving you training on that, focus on that the most, and then you will be able to migrate to any programming languages.
Yeah, and so to stay on top of things at a broad level, what do you read every day or every week to keep on top of tech around the world and what's happening?
I have a very, so firstly, I attend a lot of meetups. I go for a lot of meetup talks, as well as I do attend them as well. So I learn from them. That's one of the best way to come across new technologies and frameworks. But if not that, which is happening a bit less lately, any word I come across during work, or when I'm having conversation with my friends or anything, or even like while going through articles, if something comes across me, like say Flutter for an example, I will note it down and I'll research about it and just have a high level knowledge of what that is. And ask questions when I know someone who is pro at it. I ask questions that, oh, how does this work? Or how can I, like, what are the benefits, pros and cons? Because that is the level of information I need as a CTO. So that's what I focus on. Yeah, that's how I keep up to date with tech.
Fantastic.
And I was going to ask, what do you think of Flutter? Have you tried it out? Is that something that you guys are looking at?
I'm not here.
Okay, because it seems to be extremely popular with a lot of companies, especially startups who don't have any legacy code. And I had 4 interns from the one university that all did an internship at the same time for 4 different startups. They all got a full-time job. Well, I think 3 of them before they even finished their internship. And then the last one got one within a few weeks to finish their internship. So Flutter is a really good one for people to look at.
Yeah, I think for Shebah especially, we have a massive native code or legacy code that we have to deal with. Shebah was launched 4 years ago. So, and 4 or 5, I should say, agencies have worked on it before we took the team in-house. So we have a lot of tech debts and stuff we are focusing on. So one of that example is we recently migrated to AWS. Until that, it was on Heroku. So yeah, we have our own challenges, and we could not afford to like play around with more technologies like that right now. But we did migrate our code from PHP to Vue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vue, I think, has been very, very popular. You mentioned before, and you mentioned a couple of times now, AWS. When I think of AWS, I think of DevOps, I think of hosting. And I must say, even in our IT businesses that Jared and I have, the hardest person to actually find out there at the moment is not front end or back end developers. It's actually DevOps. And we searched for probably 2 years to find a DevOps until we found the one that we were after. And we had to pay way over what we thought we needed to pay. And it just goes to show that DevOps is in very high demand. Knowing how to use AWS, knowing how to use, Azure. But you also mentioned a great little technology called Kubernetes. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so Kubernetes is quite similar, Docker Kubernetes, and I think it's more about how you publish your code and how you work on your servers. But I think in terms of, I want to go back to AWS because I want to raise a point in that not many startups, especially product companies, have DevOps people until they actually are at a scale where they are growing rapidly. Yeah. So until that, you as a backend developer or front-end developers are focusing on the DevOps side as well and working on that, scaling your servers, auto-scaling your servers, or putting security in front, whatever that is what you have to take care of. So in that case, that's why I mentioned before that you need to be across this DevOps work as well as a backend or front-end developer. So I'm a mobile developer and I still look into our AWS and help my team. So yeah.
And so if you're interviewing people, how much emphasis do you put on self-learning? And this comes from a question from Saeed, in that he hasn't been doing much self-learning, thinking that the university was going to teach him all he needs to know. Just how important is self-learning in order to get a job?
In terms of, no matter whether you are an intern or you are joining as a employee with experience or without experience, self-learning is something you need no matter what. You need to have, because there is no chance that anyone is going to sit next to you all the time and teach you when you are stuck with an issue as well. I always say to all my friends or even mentees that a great developer is the one who is able to go on Google and search what they want.
Yeah.
Agreed. Because that's exactly what you need to be able to solve problems. There is no chance that you will never face an issue once you have learned a programming language or once you know the programming language, because you are gonna hit issues, and to be able to find them and self-learn is the main key of it. No one's gonna help you all the time, right?
Yeah, and I think too, and it's our CTO is much the same in that he's actually more interested in what you've self-learned than what you've learned at university. And if you can't show that you don't have an appetite to self-learn and understand what the latest and greatest is out there and have an opinion. Like, we love it when someone comes in and wants to tell us that .NET is the programming language of the future, even though we know it isn't. So, you know, to self-learn, I think, is extremely important, and extremely important for, you know, students to be able to demonstrate that in an interview as well.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think, especially as a fresher or intern in a company, you come with a very fresh mindset. Most of the times we have been working on, say, I've been working on Shebah platform since last 1 year, and someone else coming from a fresh mindset and giving their opinions and suggestions is so much valuable, because we are in our box. We need to be pulled out of as well. So yeah, it's a very good trait to have.
Okay. So there was a great question from Ashika, and that person asks, how much experience in front end or back end do you need to get an internship? I'll answer that by saying not much, okay, because we can find an internship for anyone. But one thing, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, one type of person that we have been very successful in not only finding internships, but also getting jobs for, are people who are not that strong in programming, but have learnt frameworks in automated testing, Puppeteer, Jest, robot frameworks. We've found that people can, in an internship in 13 weeks, almost learn enough to know to get a job of about 70,000 plus super at the end of an internship. So do you have automated testers in your business, and how do you value them?
So at Shebah right now, we do not have automated testers.
I've got someone for you. She just finished her internship. Her name's Udani. She's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to send her your CV.
Sure, that's it. But for Shebah, so far we have been doing automated testing as developers as well. So we have a bunch of unit testing and stuff. Of course, as developers, these are absolute requirement that you need to know how to write unit tests. So we have that, and on top of it, we have some AWS automated tests for on-device farm, which does the testing for us. So we have UI automated tests as well. Okay. And most of the times right now, my devs are doing them. But of course, eventually when so the next phase for Shebah, when we grow, is hiring tester, because I can't expect my team to keep doing it. And kind of, you touched in a way that testing is one of the fields which is now pivoting a bit. People do not want traditional testers anymore.
That's right.
They want automated testers. Yeah. They want their testers to be able to write code. And that also again comes back to be able to write code, even though that is automated tests, but still it is code.
Yeah. Well, I suppose this will give you a bit of an or give the listeners a bit of an insight into how we go about our business. If I was to meet someone like you at a meetup, and I found out that you've got a significant business, you've got many, many developers, but no automated testing, what I would say to you is, I'd say, hey, Kruti, how about you take on an intern to set up some automated testing for you? They will cost you nothing. They're doing it for course credit for their university or through us. They'll come in for 13 weeks, set up automated testing, and then just see if you like this type of person. What do you say to that? I'm hoping you're about to say yes.
Oh, no, I was actually going to tell you guys that, yeah, send me my note.
Good, okay.
In real, serious.
Excellent, good. So all the listeners, for all of you out there who are not very good at programming, like you've given it a go, but it's not something that you're really, really good at, have a look at automated testing. The one I want you to look at is called Puppeteer, and have a look at it, download it, play around with it, and who knows, someone that's listening in might be able to do an internship with the wonderful Kruti at Shebah, setting up their automated testing. And I will guarantee you, if you do a good job, I'm pretty sure that Kruti will probably hire you at the end, but there's no guarantee. And that's how it works, isn't it, Jared?
It is indeed how it works. Dom and Kruti, you've had a really good chat there about some front end, some back end stuff, some testing. But Kruti, there's more to tech than just those areas. What else are you seeing, and what other opportunities, whether it's around data or around security? What else is happening in the whole tech atmosphere that creates opportunities?
As I mentioned before, data analyst is something really booming lately, and it will be required forever. So that's another area where you don't require too much programming skills, but more of like your SQL skills or database skills. If you are good at that, that's one field. I kind of am not much fan of business analyst, to be honest, because it's kind of changing now, and product owner or project manager or business analyst, they all are getting like one thing lately. So but you can always go into project management, and for project manager role, you don't really need to have programming skills or any experience in programming at all. I've been asked that question so many times. What you need to focus on, if you want to be a project manager and you are not at all programmer, you can learn agile methods, Kanban approach, all these things, and learn about project management skills that you require and get the certification, and you will be able to be a junior project manager or something initially and grow from that. So,
and so what are the steps to becoming a project manager? Is it business analyst first? So how do you get up to project manager?
I think if you have skills of like agile methodologies and learn a bit more about like traditional methods as well, like waterfall and stuff like that, then you will be able to join. If the company believes more into business analyst or junior project manager, that's what you can start with straight away. I don't think it requires any extraordinary skills to be a manager. It's name manager, but you're just managing a project in a way, not really. It's not a big manager role.
And would you encourage people to go and start playing in software like Jira,
Yes.
Asana, you know, the waterfall?
Hello.
Yeah. How important is to knowing, if you want to be a project manager, how important is it to know the software of a project manager?
Oh, of course, it's like one of the key things. And I think when you get certification, you get that level of knowledge as well. Jira is absolute must. You need to know Jira because most of the company eventually migrate to Jira. If you know Jira, you will know all the rest of the softwares because they are they have less feature parity over Jira. So yeah. Yeah, if that answers question.
Okay, and what about security? We had a lot of people talking about, you know, IT security, or it's now been retermed cyber security for everything. So what sort of opportunities do you see in cyber security?
I'm not across a lot in terms of cybersecurity, to be honest, but yes, I know that cybersecurity has been, even as a smallest company we are, or compared to all these big banks and stuff like that, we also still have to worry about our security and security of our data and stuff like that. And we hire security experts to look into our systems. So cybersecurity is one where you can either go into more data side of the cybersecurity, or you can go more towards the infrastructure side of cybersecurity. And both of them are really great fields where you can progress ahead. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I've seen a few questions come through, Dom, about where to learn on self-learning. So it's all well and good for us to say you got to self-learn, and you know, we can sort of go on about it. But do you have any places where you send people to? Is it courses on Udemy? Do you send someone to General Assembly? Although it's a bit more expensive that way. But where do you find the good online content for self-learning?
So I have started learning about data analysis sort of stuff, and I am doing it on edX. I'll type in the thing. The courses are certified or non-certified. I don't see much value in having certification. It's when you do this edX or any Udemy or any courses, it honestly tells you that you are proactive in terms of learning and you are upscaling constantly yourself, and that's a great thing for your resume. You can put it in your LinkedIn and shit like that. Yeah, so I love edX because it's from Harvard University, Oxford University, and all, and teachers and stuff. So yeah, I follow that one. But yeah, you already mentioned a bunch of them like Code Academy and stuff.
Jared mentioned General Assembly before, and I must admit I do like people that have come from General Assembly. The reason why I like it is that that someone has decided that they're happy to go out and pay for quite an expensive course, and it's normally because they're very passionate. So it's not so much about that they're going to be better, but I know that their attitude is that they really want this. And my understanding from people who've done the courses at General Assembly, they're very hard. they say cancel your personal life for 3 months because you're going to be working day and night. And I think that anyone that gets through it, to me, shows that they're really committed, and I want them on on my team. So I would check them out as well.
Yeah, and gone are the days that engineering, computer engineering or IT was the only degrees you can get to get into programming. Gone are those days. Now I know so many people who are self-taught at home and they're amazing programmers. I know so many people who have studied from Academy XI or General Assembly sort of places, and they are still amazing programmers. I think it comes down to, again, self-learning and how motivated you are to keep growing in the industry, and how passionate you are for tech, of course.
And I think we've got a real live example with us at the minute, Dom, where we've hired recently a new front end developer, Sam, and he is incredible, absolutely amazing. But he did a mechatronics degree or something, and he told me yesterday he's learned how to code from Udemy, and what was the other online platform that now Cyrus is doing some. Anyhow, there's another one. He's learned everything online about how to code because he did a mechatronics degree, and he's an absolute weapon. And it just shows to me that you go and get the fundamentals. I believe, Kruti, go and get the fundamentals, but everything else you need on top of that, you've got to in your own time go learn it. And the beautiful thing is that we're not living in the 1970s where you can only go and, I mean, I used to have encyclopedias at home when I was at school. If I wanted to get knowledge on something, we didn't have Google. You'd literally go to the study, you have to go through the letters, find the encyclopedia with the letter M, if it started with M, look it up in a book.
That's the one that was missing, by the way.
Yeah. The world we live in now is amazing. It is at your fingertips. So as far as I'm concerned, it's no excuse if you have not had enough curiosity to go and learn some of this stuff. So there's nothing more unimpressive than someone turns up to an interview, whether it's for an internship or a job, and you say, well, have you gone and had a look at any of this other stuff? And they go, oh, no, I haven't done any of that. That is just, to me, it's just pure laziness, because all you have to do is type it into a keyboard.
And also, when we were talking about other than programming, what are the other fields you can go in IT? One of the biggest one is user experience as well.
Yes.
Growing quite heavily. I am seeing another slight pivot in user experience as well, where user experience developers are also sort of front-end developers who are designing the XMLs and files for the developers to just plug it in, sort of. So there are tools that help them do it. But of course, user experience is another field where you can go in.
And the two skill sets between developing and good user experience and user interface, which is the design, it's totally separate. It's very rare that you can find someone that does both. So don't think you need to know programming to do good user. If you're a design person, very creative, then, you know, UX UI could be for you.
I think I always say that programmers are followers in terms of what they are told to build, they built it. User experience are the true innovators often, because they actually understand their patterns. They do a lot of research before they design a software for you or even a feature for you. So, and then we as developers, we just go and implement it. Of course, we are innovators in different ways, but that's where I see that when it comes down to software development, user experience is so much important.
Kruti, for our listeners then, what's the difference between UX, UI, and CX?
What's CX? Customer?
Yeah. So I'm seeing that pop up a bit now. Rather than it being user experience, it's becoming more customer-centric experience. So again, these acronyms pop up every 6 months, right? There's new ones all the time. But
well, that's something now I'm going to note down to research more about, because I've not come across customer experience. For me, user and customer is same.
Yeah. Just cut you off quickly, Kruti. So Siad asked a question before that he was in 3rd year and hadn't started doing any self-learning. To answer that question, Siad, did you see how Kruti responded just then? CX, she grabbed her pen and paper and wrote it down, and Kruti is going to go and research it. It is never too late to self-learning, because Kruti is a CTO and still goes to meetups. It's still researching stuff every night. Her self-learning will never, ever, ever stop. So Siad, do not worry you haven't started yet. because you are going to have to self-learn for your next 50 years. Sorry to cut you off there.
And the best day to plant a tree was probably 20 years ago, but the next best day is now. So start planning that now. Now, also, I saw here, Johnny, we mentioned UX and UI, and immediately Johnny put up the 2 most popular UX and UI tools. And I wrote back to him in the chat, Johnny, just by you knowing those tools exist, I want to chat with you about a role for us, because Jared, what do we need right now in our business?
We need a UX UI designer.
That's right. So Johnny, I see you've said thank you. Hit us up, mate. I want to see what you're doing.
And so, Kruti, the difference between UX and UI, let's go for it.
Yeah. So, like, I think user experience, UX UI developer is 2 different skill sets. Firstly, UX is something which comes before you start designing UI. So UX comes in picture where you understand the user patterns based on existing softwares, the research on other softwares that are available in market, and how their performance has been, like in terms of your own experience when you register. Say for a simplest of an example, registration flow, right? So firstly, you will gather information as a UXer that how much information we need, and then you will understand how many fields do I need and what kind of fields they are gonna be, and how it's gonna be flowing from A to B in terms of registration form to finishing registration. And then comes down, once you have that information, how exactly you want to do it, then UI designer, or you can be both together, not an issue. Then UI designer comes in picture, who designs the software with or form with right wordings, right drop downs, text boxes, whatever that is. So I think that's how I see differences between UX and UI in very basic terms. And FYI guys, I do not like to use very specific books, definitions. I always have my own understanding of how things work, and this is my understanding of how UX and UI is.
Yep. Also too, it's been a bit of a revelation for us looking at Google material design. So Google I love the Google company because they do so much hard work and then give it away to people for free, unless you put it inside an application. Then you have to pay, which is fair enough. But they've spent tens or hundreds of millions of dollars creating a standard design format that people can easily follow. And so if you are starting out, you're about to go into your first job, if you use that, it'll be a massive advantage for you, because most people know what those components look like, and they actually give you the code to create them really quickly. Do you use that in your business?
Oh, heavily.
Yeah,
Google Material Design is the biggest guidelines you can follow to develop on especially mobile apps, and our platform is on mobile, so we always have to follow the material design guidelines.
Fantastic. Now we've got 5 minutes left, so we're going to do some quick, very fast asking of questions. So if anyone does have a question, this is your chance. Someone put in here that dribble is amazing. Me dribbling has never been amazing, but for some reason Shilpa said it is, which is great. But it's very good for design inspiration. So have a look at that, everyone. But put your questions in here. We'll try and answer them straight away. Jared, anything you wanted to say?
I was going to ask a question. Where do you find Google Material Design? I assume you find that on Google, do you?
Yeah, Google's website. Just search Material Design Google and it will come up straight away.
Okay, Shampy asked the question, how do you accelerate self-learning?
Interesting. I think you just need to decide that every day I'm going to spend an hour of my time on self-learning. And
fantastic.
I have, to be honest, in my mobile, I have a notes app which always has a list of things I want to go through or research about. And I just pick one topic and every day spend 1 hour. And that's 1 hour a day is excellent time for your self-learning.
Brilliant answer. In other words, a little bit at a time. You don't do these things all at once. It's learning every day. Out of interest, what do you subscribe to any particular places to get articles and things? Like Reddit or hacker or just anything? Okay, that's good. Oh, this is the second time someone
Because
asked.
I like to Google things and find out based on the information I need instead of someone giving me that information.
So someone mentioned Salesforce. Have you had much experience with Salesforce, Kruti?
That's one area where I need to get more experience.
Okay.
It is Salesforce and Azure.
Okay, so if anyone out there is into more business and marketing, learn Salesforce. Salesforce is the #1 CRM on the planet. It's very, very high in demand. If you do their accreditation online, it's about 60 hours. Anyone that's even an administrator in Salesforce is on 100 grand. So that is definitely one that I would be looking at. But it's more for people who don't want to or are not very good at coding. But the career in Salesforce is fantastic.
Salesforce consultants are also highly in demand all the time.
Always. Have you got any good meetups to recommend, Kruti?
Yes. So if you want to go into mobile apps development, go to Coco Heads and Google Developers Meetup. Google Developers Meetup is awesome for, in general, Google products now. It used to be Android Developers Meetup and changed to GDG now. These are the two which I'm very regular at generally. Other than that, there are front-end and back-end specific meetups as well.
Flutter is a good one.
Yeah, Flutter's group is awesome.
Yep.
Which one? I can't remember on top of my head, but yeah, there are a bunch of awesome meetups that are happening. There is one called BuzzConf guys Buzz Conference guys organize one meetup as well, which is on like innovative technologies and stuff, which I love attending. So yeah,
fantastic.
Just search for conference and you'll see their meetup coming through.
Cool. Is cloud computing the future?
Yeah.
Yes, I would say absolutely. No one in their right mind would ever go out and spend, like I did, $80,000 on 2 servers when you can simply hire it from AWS or Azure. So definitely. One thing we didn't mention earlier, one thing we didn't mention earlier was Docker. I think for those who are in DevOps, I think Docker is extremely important. In fact, everyone should know Docker. In our business, if your code does not run in Docker, D-O-C-K-E-R, you're not allowed to submit it. So that's an important one. Good meetups for testers. There are meetups out there for testers. So just look them up. Never be afraid to go to a bad meetup, because by going to a bad meetup, you know what a good one looks like and you don't ever need to go again. It's never a waste of time. So Jared, that is 3 o'clock. We have to say a few thank yous to finish up.
Yeah, just before we do that, I want to just talk about Shebah for 30 seconds, Kruti. First one being that you've been generous enough to offer a 5% discount code for anyone that does need to use Shebah. It is Women Support Women. Maybe someone can type that into the chat. But you obviously need to be female to ride Shebah or under the age of 18. But equally, we've met a lot of people over the last 4 months that have lost their jobs, unfortunately. And it is a challenging time, but Shebah's always looking for drivers. And so, Kruti, I just wanted to ask you that if someone was interested in picking up some work and they do have a driver's license, how do they go about getting a job with Shebah?
They just have to go into or just go to shebah.com.au and you will be able to see become a driver option and you can register online. You will need few certifications. Of course, at Shebah, you can only be a driver if you are a female or identify yourself as a female. You will need your driver's license, some car registration details. You will also need working with children check because Shebah requires that. We drive with children as well, unaccompanied children, so that, and you're good to go. So you can start the process of registering. It's pretty straightforward in the end. Yeah.
Great. And if you are out of work, it is a brilliant way to pick up some extra cash. There's not too many barriers there to start picking up some work.
We recently had a driver who made $100,000 at Shebah. He finished $100,000 earning from Shebah as a driver. Yeah.
In 1 year.
No, I think she did in 2.5 years, but
Yeah.
part-time job, so
Fantastic.
it's still awesome.
Jared, who do we love?
Yes, I'm getting to that, Dom. So Study New South Wales, we very much appreciate you supporting this webinar series. We love doing it. The next webinar is on the 11th of August, and I noticed someone asking some questions about interviewing and CVs. We're going to tackle resume and job hunting tips in that webinar, again, the 11th of August at 2 p.m. And thank you again, Study New South Wales. Thank you, Kruti. We very much appreciate it. We know how busy you are, so thank you for taking the time. You give back a lot. You offer employment to international students. You take them on as interns to train them. So you actually practice what you preach. So thank you for being a supporter of international students. Everyone on this in this webinar very much appreciates it as well. And we wish you the best for your career too, and watching on in your career and where you might go to next, taking over the world, I think. But thank you again for your time, Kruti.
Thank you so much, guys. It was fun having conversation with you all.
Thank you, everyone.
As well.
Please stay safe, especially the people in Victoria. Apologies, I didn't wear my mask today. I should have put that on at the start. But thank you very much. We very much appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good on you.